6 p.m. Public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board or the commission on any matter pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551007. The commission is not permitted to discuss or take action on any presentations made concerning matters that are not listed on the agenda for tonight. Presentations are limited to matters over which the commission has authority. Speakers have up to 4 minutes or the time limit determined by the presiding officer. Each speaker must have submitted their request to speak by completing the speaker form or by email to Ms. Santos. Do we have anybody signed up to talk in general tonight? Okay. We'll move on into regular session. Item number 1 is TUP 24001, PD 30 retail construction trailer. Consider a recommendation to the town council on a request for a temporary use permit to allow a construction trailer on PD 30 lot 1, block A, property generally located approximately 260 feet east of Trophy Club Drive and approximately 253 feet north of State Highway 114. Currently zone Planned Development District 30, Trophy Club Town Center, Trophy Club, Denton County, Texas. Staff report.
All right, good evening, commissioners. So the applicant, they're requesting approval for the temporary use permit to allow a construction trailer, one roll-off dumpster, and then temporary fencing around their lot. Construction, the trailers in the offices in Trophy Club, they can be obtained by a temporary use permit. So it's got to be recommended by P&Z and then approved by council. The construction on the lot, it's not to be expected to go past December 31st. So therefore, they're just requesting to be there December 31st. The projected time for Chipotle right now is October 31st. But just to give them some leeway so we don't have to come back to you. Staff recommends approval for P&Z to recommend approval to council. Do you have any questions?
Questions, anyone? Any discussion?
Are they doing one building now, as shown on the plans, and the future one, or?
Yes, sir.
So I had a question on the fencing type. Are they going to use like chain link sections or a continuous run?
It'll be the chain link so that they can take down, quickly tear down, move something in, and then put it back up.
Any other questions for staff? No more discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the granting of the TUP or passing to council.
In a second. Any other discussion? Comments? No? Call the point. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 on the agenda. Conduct a public hearing and consider recommendation to the town council on a request made by Trophy Club Town Center 2 LP to amend Planned Development District PD 30 to allow multi-tenant monument sign with CEVMS display located at 2200 to 2300 State Highway 114 on Lot 2, Block A of the Trophy Club Town Center edition of the C. Medlin Survey, abstract number 823, Denton County, Texas. Okay, we're going to open the public hearing on this at 6:04. Staff?
All right, so if y'all recall, June 6th, so just a couple months ago, we did receive a previous version of this monument sign presented to P&Z, recommendation to council. It was a unanimous 4-0 vote. When they got to council, they did review it. They made a motion to remand it back to P&Z, basically to not sit at the dais and redesign or design a new monument sign. So we had either concerns or just opinions, options of what they would like to see come back to them. Some of those things was the LED was a concern overall. Where the sign, how it says Trophy Club Town Center, if you recall, it was down at the bottom. They said that, they'd like to have that up top. And then some of the concerns were the height. So you got a new version. I was going to give just a little bit of history because Paul, you weren't here for that. So I'll kind of give you the same spiel. So PD 30 does not allow for monument signs in the advertising of tenants. So they do allow for monument signs, they just don't allow for the advertising of tenants. Also, PD 30 doesn't specifically talk about the changeable electronic boards. So, but it does refer back to the ordinance, and if you go look in the ordinance, it is prohibited unless recommended by P&Z and approved by council. And we obviously have those throughout town. As proposed, so what you see on the new, as proposed, the structure is still angled south to face southeast on 114. They have reduced the height to 32 feet. It's still 14 feet wide. The sign is 17 feet wide, so you have about 1.5 feet overhang on each side. They're still, even though they added the Trophy Club Town Center at the top, they really want to make sure that they can include all of those tenants, so they still have all 20 of those tenants on there. We redid everything, so republished new notice, public hearing in the newspapers. That just meets our code and Texas code. And then at the time of our agenda packet and preparation and sending out, we haven't received any new inquiries. If you recall, we had the one from the townhomes originally. No letters in support or opposition of the item was received. And then since we've sent it out, we have received one email in opposition after publishing the packet. I'm here for
the opposition, the one email?
From Mr. Jablonski.
Okay. Back to your comment, I was at that city council meeting. Can you tell me what you heard as it relates to the LED lights?
Well, the big concern was the distraction to drivers on the highway, which we all discussed. And then any of the lighting that might affect the townhomes. That was predominantly what their.
But the townhome HOA guy was satisfied with the explanation from the sign company and the applicant.
Yes, and, okay. No, it's fine. The applicant had a family emergency, so, and y'all know Joshua, he couldn't be here, but the sign people are for any of those questions. But the illumination, if you recall, on the photometric, it was down to like 0.01 by the time that, with the angles getting to that first townhome, distance and angle. So, and that has not changed and does not change with the lowering of the sign.
I'm just a little cloudy on the discussion, the specific discussion about the LED. Because the two things I remember from city council, they said make it shorter and move the sign up the top, right? Those are the two major things. There was discussion about LEDs, but they didn't say we don't want LEDs, did they?
I don't recall them saying no. There wasn't really they were just really wanting more feedback from, the public.
So basically they said make it shorter and put the name on top, which is what this does, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then there was obvious concern of just the size of the LED on there, but there was no recommendation.
Yeah, no recommendation. So what direction did you have to do this? We'll wait to talk to him in a minute, okay? I'm just trying to remember, I was there, I just want to make sure that, there was, if it were me, I would be a little confused when I walked out there saying, what am I supposed to do now? Move this up and get it shorter? Okay, then if you come back a second time, well, that's not short enough. That opens the whole thing up to, there wasn't enough direction, I don't think, given to adequately redesign a sign that we're going to say tonight, oh, this is perfect. They're going to approve this, so slide it on in there. So.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
Kind of tagging along with what it's been discussed so far. So it's not specific to the LEDs necessarily as much as the height of the sign and the location of Trophy Club Town Center at the top. So I'm going off memory here, but I thought that we heard from the applicant that really the main reason to put this monumental sign there is because of visibility from the highway for the tenants, right? And so if that's truly the intent here, and they said it seemed as though they had done a significant amount of due diligence. I want to give credit where it's due. They were here. They were answering questions, why you selected that location, why we selected this height. They were looking at, the highway has a depression at some point. So there were all these things that got factored into it. And so then what I'm hearing is they were concerned about the height of the sign. And then let's put Trophy Club Town Center at the top of the sign. So the applicant, who's not here tonight, is wanting to accomplish something for their tenants. They're hearing from their tenants that we want more visibility, but then I think we're also having some concerns from leaders in our community about, making this fit right for us and the town. So I'm a little bit at loss on, similar to what I think Mr. Chair was getting at, is, the expectation here. So we can always lower a sign. We can always change LED lighting on the sign if that's kind of what the ask was, at the direction that was given. But to what end is really, I think, what you were getting at. So at what point do we feel as though we have something that is kind of complete? So I'm a little confused as well. I think it's great to have this perspective that you're offering, but I am questioning a little bit on what was the intent of the ask beyond making these minute changes. And then can you please remind me, what was the original height of the sign?
35.
It was 35, so we lowered it 3 feet. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because, and he can attest to it, but I believe if you go any lower, then you start losing tenants.
And then also, I think that part at the top, the Trophy Club Town Center, it's a little fine for my eyes, but I want to say, is that 7 feet at the top, or
2 feet.
it's only 2 feet?
2 feet.
Okay. So we got about 2 feet, the Trophy Club Town Center that sits at the top. That seems a little small, doesn't it? Maybe that's what it is. But that section in particular, kind of have to take that away from the height as well for the visibility of the tenant signs too, because essentially at first that was at the bottom, correct? At the base?
Yes.
So I have some concern about us making a recommendation without the applicant here. Now that I'm assuming that, so here's an assumption on my part, is I just want to make sure that whatever recommendation we make, it's something that the applicant says, yes, we're on board with it. We think this accomplishes the goals of what we were intending to do.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think also the redesign and the shaping of the sign may have allowed them to drop that 3 feet and yet keep all the efficiencies in place from the original intent.
How was it reshaped?
It was more like this. Last time, when it came up near the top, it had more of a peak on it.
I think that was just that may have just been
It may have been just the illumination, but
Yeah.
there was more, in my mind, when I saw the first thing,
Okay.
I thought it was more peaked. And
Sure.
it may have just been the alignment or arrangement of this.
Okay.
if I recall, that might have been the night photo where they kind of showed it at night.
Yes.
It may have
May look that way.
had,
Yeah.
yes.
One thing I do also remember, I just want to recap some of this stuff from the city council meeting because some of the people weren't here. At least three, maybe four, they were short rallying, but they only had 6 people. But a minimum of 3 of them said, absolutely, we need to support the businesses of Trophy Club. And I think we go back to the original number 1 on the list is, what is the purpose of the sign? Forget the design, what's the purpose of the sign? And that's the tenants are asking for because they want more visibility so they don't go broke. I understand that. Now, then we get into, they can't read it from the street. But you can't read most signs from the street. All they're trying to accomplish here is, here's a big old sign that says, there's a bunch of retail over here. Please come see what's going on. Whether you read it from, whether it's LED lights or not, I don't think the LED lights are effective anyway. It's nice and show, but it's not Vegas. That doesn't really get me into the center because they have nice lights on it, stuff like that. You don't have time to read it anyway. But that's just a personal opinion. But I want to go back and make sure that we understand that the majority of the council, including the mayor, I think, but to make the majority, are more interested in making sure we support the businesses. So somehow we need to try, I think, and accommodate the applicant as well as the businesses of our city. It also relates to tax base also. So just from a purpose standpoint, make sure we all understand that going into this discussion right now.
Yeah, and if you recall, so that was one of Joshua's opening statements is that the reason for this is because the tenants had come to them. And so they were the ones putting this forward. So
it's unfortunate we don't have a major anchor in like the Tom Thumb Center. Everybody calls it the Tom Thumb Center. They all know where the Tom Thumb Center is. You know, we don't have a major, tenant in this thing to say this, put it on top of the sign. That's the sign. Everybody refers to it as that, So they're trying to work in the Trophy Club Town Center. I'm not sure that brings people running for a sandwich either, but at the same time, there is some ego to that, I guess, and some definition for that or need for that. I'm not sure what it is. Any other questions for staff?
No, I just had one. Is 20 enough? Is 20 spaces on the sign enough to cover everybody?
I haven't asked, I mean, that hasn't changed from.
I'm just curious if Chipotle was on the sign.
They've been accounted for,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I believe there are more than 20 businesses.
I don't think Cook's Children's going to want to be on the sign.
They're not going to put,
it's not-
they're not going to put the Bevan, they're not going to put Aloft, they're not, so it's predominantly
The
the
retail.
suite spaces.
Children's is on it.
Yeah, they put it on there, but I don't
Yep.
think, yeah.
I think if push come to shove, if another retail business came in, you could certainly remove Cooks fairly easily and they'd be happy with it, I'm sure.
Any other questions for staff from anybody?
Well, I do have questions, but I don't think staff's going to be able to go there.
Yeah, are you you were at the council meeting?
Yes,
So are you in agreement those were the concerns the council had?
that's pretty much what I heard too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure everybody here understands with the council, why we got kicked back to us. I mean, our recommendation was, here's a sign, we like it, here it is. And then they throw it back to us and we say, okay, what's the direction? Make it shorter and put that on top, which happened. So this could be a real short meeting. We say, we like this sign, send it back to them, but I don't think they're going to approve this sign because it's not short enough. What's your feel on that?
I do have, okay.
Let's go ahead and get into it. Come on.
Well, get into it, all right.
Yeah.
I had some
What's that?
questions.
You want to go ahead and close the public hearing?
Oh, that's
and then
right.
we
I'm
can-
sorry. We're
Yeah.
closing public hearing at 6:18. Thank you for reminding.
Okay. I had some questions about, I guess you can break it into 4 areas. Appropriate for Trophy Club, appropriate for the town center, what's the benefit to town center, and what's the benefit to Trophy Club? And I don't know if you guys know, well, I was there, Michael heard what I had to say, and I'm not going to repeat it here, but I do have some questions that relate to that. My whole view of perspective is that here at this commission, we represent Town of Trophy Club. That's both the businesses in Trophy Club and the residents of Trophy Club. And if you really want to get to it, the land of Trophy Club, and we can go on and on. But this one involves those two, the businesses and Trophy Club. And as far as being appropriate for Trophy Club, even Town Center, a monument like this with the big old billboard, I don't feel says Trophy Club. Trophy Club means something way different to me. And I understand that the businesses we need to support them. I get that. But I'm questioning what is the best way to do that? And I had some questions, so I'm just going to ask them. What's the town center brand? Do we know?
You're asking
I'm asking
personally?
what's the town center brand?
That's a rhetorical question for you.
No, it's not. I don't know what the brand is,
I,
and that's the point. Who knows? Does this fit the town center? Can you please answer my question? What is the town
Their
center?
brand is on the top of that with the clock tower and that particular font that if you're talking about branding, I'm sorry.
Name and address, please.
7417 Woodhaven Drive.
Your name?
Bill Swift, Legacy Signs. So what you're seeing on the top of the sign, if you're talking about a brand specifically, is their brand. You may be speaking of something
Oh,
different.
I'm speaking of something different. I'm
okay.
not speaking of a logo.
Well, I mean, we're not hear branding. That's
Okay, I'm not speaking of logo.
okay. No problem.
What is town center about? That's what I'm speaking of. We're working very hard to determine what Trophy Club is all about. And we're right in the middle of all that. I don't know what town center is about, and I don't know if anyone can tell me what town center is about. At the town council meeting, I don't know which council person mentioned it, but a lot of people, when they hear that an event's at town center, they don't know where it is. That's not good. And I don't think a sign's going to fix that. So I don't think that there's a brand. If there is no brand, it's not publicized. And this is a kind of a touchy question, but what specific tenants are struggling?
well, I personally know, but I'm not delving into that. That's just because the developer and I've,
In your opinion, do you think a sign is going to help those specific tenants?
all signage helps all tenants. That's just a fact. That's why
No, that's not a fact.
That's why they're signs.
Marketing research has got to show what benefit we're going to get. What's the root cause of their struggles? What's needed to help them? I know, a sign trying to pull people off of 114, I don't think is going to help those businesses. I don't think that sign's appropriate for Trophy Club itself and Trophy Club's image.
Okay, we're into two different things here, I think. One was the purpose of the sign, and the other is the type of sign. And I think it was very clear from the council that they think a sign's okay as long as they like it. But there is a need for a purpose for this sign is to draw more attention. In drawing people off 114, you can drive it 100 times and you can say, well, you can't see the sign till you get to right here. That's not the purpose. The purpose is, I think, from a retail standpoint, is here's some retail over, here's a big sign, get your attention. You can't read them all, you don't know, but when you go to lunch the next day from Schwab or all the 3 cranes are in the air down there, and where you're going 2 miles an hour in the traffic, trying to get up there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you can look over there and say, something's going on there, may I go check it out? I don't anticipate, that's a job for Google. There's something going on there, I want to eat, what's the closest restaurant to me? But I think what they're trying to accomplish here is say, hey, look at us, we're over here. It's a big sign, you can't read it. I don't think you need to necessarily have all the flashing lights on it. That just says something, gets the same effect. There's a big monument over there. Typically that relates to retail,
Yeah.
Just my thought.
And just my perspective, and not being a super long-term resident of Trophy Club, but when we moved in, we were taken a little bit by surprise by how outdated most of the buildings in retail that we found in the town were, starting with Tom Thumb, working through there. Most of the construction, the facades and everything else looked fairly dated. Even Starbucks looked like a really old Starbucks. Nothing was new about it. And then when they started putting in the donut shop, the ice cream shop and everything else, they stepped out a little bit more. The stuff across from Byron Nelson went a little bit more modern in the design. And to me, what I see at PD 30 is a realization that we need to take a bigger step forward in the design and constructability of things that are useful for Trophy Club residents as well as others. I think Hutchins is a great example of that. Their sign is those smokestacks that sit up there. This sign does similar things for the other businesses there, but it's not more that you're going to see it and immediately try to pull off because you're too late. But it's like Mike said, that maybe it piques your interest and you come back and you take a look and you say, you know what? I had no idea this was here. And if that is one thing that could help a business, word of mouth, whatever else, I think it's an attraction. I almost view the sign as a gateway into something new and beneficial that Trophy Club has built, because I think all of the businesses in there, everything is new, it's novel, it's unique for this town. And I think the sign is just an extension of that uniqueness. And you're right, I don't think it's the old traditional Trophy Club, but we may not be the traditional Trophy Club 5-10 years forward. And maybe that sign outlives its usefulness by that time, but I think something has to be done that is a little bit more off the pale to try and help these business owners, because they have a significant commitment. And if, you can't pass out enough flyers to get enough business coming back in. So if you do see something and it piques your interest and you come back and say, what is that sign all about? Maybe that's the dam bursting and letting people come in. I mean, that's just my perspective. It's a unique enough characteristic of the town. I don't think it's garish. I don't think it's outrageous. I think the council's changes by putting the town's name up at the top is extremely beneficial. I much more prefer that design over what they had the last time. So we don't know yet. And so my thought is, how will we know if this is going to significantly impact the health of the businesses if we don't give it a shot? Because I think all the other alternatives are lacking. I don't think you can pass out flyers. I don't think you can run ads and anything, because nobody reads a paper or anything continuously anymore. It's like Mike said, Google could help. But I mean, that's just my perspective on the build and what I think the brand was. It's like Trophy Club is stepping into the future with this. We've designed this. We have a hotel. We have the apartments that are right there. Everything is unique, and it's very symbolic almost of what you see in South Lake Town Square, except it's not made out of red brick. Same concept, same businesses, smaller scale, but I think it's a nod toward trying to open the community up, not only to the residents, but visitors that come in. That's just my perspective on it.
You mentioned, how do we know? We know through market research, that's how we know. Market research can answer questions. It can show us the root cause of the struggles for these businesses. It can show us how the town center tenants will benefit from a sign. And it can show us the effectiveness of driving new business. It could give us an idea. We have none of that. We have opinions. I have my opinion. Terry, you've got yours, and is it Bill? Great. Bill has his opinion about signs. He works with signs. And I guess some of the tenants do, but we're just working on conjecture right here. That's all we got. We have nothing to really hang our hat on that says this is going to work. Okay, so let's give it a shot. We build this 32-foot monument. What if it doesn't work? Now we got this 32-foot monument, which I don't believe is appropriate for town center. I don't believe is appropriate for Trophy Club. Now what? And the businesses aren't being helped. So what do we do? And I don't think we have the answer.
Commissioner, I think you bring up some good points. And you talk about market research. I actually had a question that kind of stemmed from some of what you were speaking to, related to really tying it back to, from an applicant standpoint, they believe, right, the developer believes that their tenants will benefit from having this signage. So they've done whatever research and analysis that they've thought would bring value to this development and their tenants and profitability. They're willing to put the money into this sign, which I'm assuming is not an insignificant expense, okay? So all that to say, there's enough research that probably occurred and went into this and some of the analytics that you're talking about.
We don't know.
I think it's a safe bet. But
Why couldn't they answer my questions then?
what
I
I'm
sent these out a month ago.
What I'm curious about, though, is tying it back to the tenants, and so the opportunities for them to be on here. So are all tenants that do have lease and are basically in the suites, are all of them going to be afforded one of these slots, or is it going to be compensation based?
Again, I'm just going off of what Joshua said.
Because this came up
At the
last
last
night.
meeting.
I think we asked her in the last meeting, and
Sufficient amount.
there wasn't a clear
Josh said he had-
response.
I
had a sufficient
asked him the
amount
question,
to
are they going to pay for these spaces? He said, we haven't gotten that far yet.
Right.
And they might have to pay for their design and stuff, but also you have to have some control of the sign too.
So
It's not a bunch of weird.
if it's a one-time expense, right? I mean, for them to purchase this, that's one thing. I mean, that gets you visibility. I think that's pretty standard. That seems like it makes sense. But if there's, additional charges, and we're not supposed to go down the path to get into the business model, but I'm trying to think towards the point of this is supposed to help the tenants, right? Let's get them their visibility. Signage is not something that's unique. I think this sign does draw attention to the development itself, which I think is a benefit. I'm not sure actually the shortening of the sign is 3 feet really enough to satisfy what the town leadership was looking for, what council was looking for.
Maybe not every one of them.
I'm not sure, but 3 feet for a sign this big, and especially for kind of the viewing distance that it's intended, I'm not sure how significant a reduction that actually is. I would just assume leave it at what the original proposed height was.
Well, if I could throw in just one other thing that's a real big kicker on this sign is your proximity to the high energy transmission line that sits right above it. It's a 138 kV line that does sag. And so any reduction in height is going to be beneficial, because if you've got to get up in the constructability of the sign is going to require an aerial device. Anytime an aerial device touches any land around one of those transmission lines, you have to call and get a line clearance from Encore. So they bring their engineers out, and so they will help you, because during peak load, those lines do sag, and they sag pretty significantly. So again, the more distance that you have between there, the better off you are, and the more success rate you have with Encore for pulling that line clearance and improving your structure underneath. So that's one of the things that I'm not sure council talked fully about.
I don't know. I mean, that sounds like you're kind of getting into safety issues or maybe hazard-related discussion. But that's not in the information that's provided here.
No.
So.
No. But I'm just saying is one of the side impacts of height reduction is that you're in a better position to pull that line clearance from Encore.
If I may, we do take into consideration that the minimum of 10 feet that's required by the state on all of this. I mean, the clearances, we do have the clearance.
Yeah. At the previously proposed height, and obviously this one as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
So have you touched base with Encore?
We have not.
John.Harley@encore.com. Touch base with him as soon as you can, because otherwise you may be delayed unnecessarily as they work to grant that clearance for you.
Typically, until we have an approval, we don't
Right.
engage.
And I'm saying it may not hurt to proactively go,
Right on.
because then Michael's question about size reduction and everything else, does it make sense? Does it not? Is it better 3 foot taller? If those obstructions are out of the way, there's, I don't know that the additional 3 feet need to go. I don't know. So again, it's a valid point. So I just don't know. But it might be helpful, and it might address some other concerns that may come up later on down the road.
John.Harley,
Harley,
LL.
Encore.com. I'll give you his email.
All right.
If you like. So, when we're done, I'll make sure I'll give you his contact info.
Any other comments?
Oh, I got one little question.
Okay.
Is the American flag permanent, or that's just going to change around?
Static for 8 seconds.
just like everything else. Okay.
Correct.
So what they talked about before is I think TxDOT had done some studies on, attention span or whatever else. And so the sign, as it changes the visuals of where the American flag is, it's between 5 and 8 seconds as it changes. And so you can have differing images. If you wanted to do something for a particular business, say Poke Bowl, Social Oak, or somebody like that, you could have theirs flash up there and it'll stay between 5 and 8, and then it'll move to the next one. And so it doesn't have to remain static. It can be variable. And again, that it's helpful from a marketing standpoint. While they may not see the small sign at the bottom, they will certainly see that big screen. And so if it did have one of the businesses on that screen, somebody said, oh, okay, maybe that's what clicks. I don't know.
Well, and as a side note, when this went back, so when this went back to Legacy, it was about 4 days before July 4th. So it just kind of, so that's why they put that up. So.
Matt, I think there's maybe a level of clarity that I'm not sure even the developer and Joshua was able to speak to last time, so maybe it's not going to translate with the question I'm about to ask, but if visibility of the businesses that are there is kind of the key goal here, right? To drive traffic there and increase revenue. I think we all agree on that. What we're talking around and circling is, so we have these, the main display is the LED. What access do the tenants have to that LED sign? Because that's what's going to bring the business. So from even driving down just kind of the frontage road, these small signs that are beneath, they're nice to haves, but that's more for local traffic. So I think they're trying to draw people in from maybe off the highway and surrounding areas, people that are driving through kind of this corridor. So that's just another question that I have. I wish there was more clarity, and maybe you have it, of what is going to be the access to the LED sign itself for all the tenants. And is it just a function of being there? You can have your logo. It's going to be on the loop every 8 seconds. That would be good to know, because I think that tells me, hey, we're accomplishing that. We're at least, we have a good plan they have a good plan for how they're going to accomplish that goal of increasing the visibility for all these tenants. And that's just not clear to me right now.
If I may, that would be typical of any sign like this. Beck Ventures has more. They have another one of these in Dallas that it does the same thing. The building is set way back. You can't see it. There's a very large LED, a double-sided one up there as well. It's a V-shaped sign, so but the visibility is different because you can see it heading both sides of the freeway. Mm-hmm. But typically you'll rotate every one of your retail clients. Okay. The point being made of Cook Children's, they don't care about being up on that thing. It's a destination. If everybody knows where Cook Children is, they're not trying to advertise per se. So you may have one or two entities like that, but typically you will rotate through every one of your tenants for that 8-second period.
Okay. So your opinion is it's more than that. That seems to be what generally occurs for these one of signs, a sign of this type at this type of retail destination.
Absolutely, on almost every multi-tenant type shopping center or plaza.
Okay.
And if I may, on the distance, after we left the last time, after the council meeting, we went and we did some very detailed measurements as far as line of sight and visibility and things like that. And I believe it's Davis Boulevard that is right there, isn't that correct? So the moment you pass under Davis, it does become visible. So there's a green highway sign there. It's a Denton County sign. Mm-hmm. The readability of that sign and that LED at that distance. Now, this is based on content, gentlemen. I mean, we don't control content, but the capability of that sign would be, you could read whatever was on that sign the moment you cross under that bridge. The little blades, as Joshua likes to call them, the tenant panels. You got to be on the access road to read those. I mean, let's just get real. Come on.
Right.
But it's still representation. And again, that's true of almost every multi-tenant sign of this magnitude. They're not designed to be read from the highway. They're more of a directional thing, and it just kind of is what it is. But the readability, we have absolutely looked at that. And as soon as you cross under that bridge, you're right there on that peak. And as you come across, you're about eye level with the LED at that point. And as I said, it would be readable.
And even at this adjusted height?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
The 3 feet, and it was a little bit different design. There was some, we took some of the architectural features off in order to maintain the integrity of the individual panels and the LED. Because in reducing that, let's say you go to a 7x14 or something like that, you're just making it harder at that distance to read. You're going to have to get closer to it in order to be able to read it. And I think that's their point. They want you to see that right there. As soon as you clear that bridge, it'd be right there on the right-hand side.
Okay, thank you. Nothing, no further
And
questions.
so in my mind, just tagging on to your point, what I would see is the businesses impacted, they would develop their own marketing scheme for the LED board. You know, if somebody had a Sunday brunch that they wanted to advertise at one of the restaurants, they could certainly put that up there. But I think they would be incented to go ahead and make it marketing based, as appealing as possible, but still, you know, it doesn't look tawdry, trashy. I mean, it's professionally done. And so I think that's just really beneficial, especially at night when you're coming through there. I think
There's a service that we offer for the first month on things like this for free to get people started with content. I mean, these are, and I don't know how much y'all know about how these things actually operate. They're all cell modem based, and it's basically drag and drop. So when we look at signs like this, we look at what aspect ratios are, you know, like the 16:9 televisions, you know, you see all that advertised. Well, in signs like this, your perfect aspect ratio is going to be 1:2, whether it's a 4:8, a 3:6, an 8:16, you know, whatever that is. That's where 90% of your content that is floating out there on the internet is designed at that aspect ratio. So it's pretty easy these days.
Rob?
I'm very pleased to see the reduced size of the sign. I raised concerns at the last hearing about the size of it. I think it's a good move because looking from the back of it, it's a big blank stone wall. And so I'm happy to see that you've reduced it.
Clarification from the last meeting, I think city council meeting, the presentation you guys made there, I think there was some question about, you know, the TxDOT has these signs out there. The next section, you've got this place to eat, this place to sleep, and this place to get gas. Did they look in, since a lot of these tenants that are struggling are basically restaurants, shall we say, eating establishments. So did you know if they looked into that, or and TxDOT said no, or?
TxDOT doesn't use those for advertising, that type of thing. All of their signs are silver alerts or traffic alerts or things like that. But they absolutely use this technology all day, every day.
I'm talking about the stagnant signs where they're on an
Right.
exit.
They're on the side of the road, yes, sir.
Did the applicant look into that possibility for?
Not on the applicant side, but on the town side, we have. So Tamara has looked into getting those, because those will be basically in South Lake saying what's coming up next.
Right.
So whether it's a hotel, 7-Eleven, those. So those are,
And those are done by direct request of the businesses to TxDOT for that, and there's fees they have to pay to be on those signs, things like that. So the town actually does not have involvement in that process, other than kind of making sure they know how to navigate with TxDOT.
right.
I'm just trying to anticipate the next city council meeting and questions that will come up. Did we cover all the bases? Next question for the gentleman here from the sign company. Because I think this is going to be an issue also. I think the concept of billboard, people have been using the concept of billboard. I don't see this as a billboard. You know, I think billboards that, you know, Lady Bird Johnson took care of, you know, but this is a different type of advertising and attention getter. Is there any way to size this down and get the same effect, even if it's 2 feet by 2 feet down?
It's proportionate as you size it down
1 to 2
to the size of the characters you're able to put on it. So, and that was the point I was making earlier. If you do reduce the size of it, you're going to have to travel a little bit further, maybe to read that particular message.
But you still will get the fact that there's a bunch of retail over here.
Oh, absolutely.
Which most shopping centers have, including Tom Thumb, even though it doesn't blink or anything. So I think, back to your comment about does the sign work, I think you'll find that most retail centers have signs, unless the city is too tough not to give them a sign to advertise their business. But you go Plano, anywhere else, it's always been, you need a big sign out there to tell who's in the center, even if you're just walking by or driving by slowly on this. You can't read the signs on the building from the service road. So we need something else on there, I think. It's just a comment to go along. So there is a way to reduce the size. I'm just trying to anticipate the next round of reasoning here. Because I don't know personally, I think we could do two things here tonight. We can table this and tell you to go back, but I don't think that gets us done. I think what we're faced with here is maybe we have to approve this sign and send it to them and make them tell us what it is they want, because they didn't do it last time effectively. Make it shorter. Okay, you did that, right? And move this up there. That's what they told you to do. And they had some concerns about LED. Some concerns, not all of them. But more importantly, they had the desire to support the business of Trophy Club. So I think we're in a bad situation here. I mean, does anyone disagree with this?
Mr. Chair, do you think it could be beneficial if we were to have a discussion now with kind of the expertise that's in front of us about the sign to accomplish what the intended goal is from the applicant? The sign should be no lower than X amount of feet. Because essentially, if you're coming down the highway, right? I mean, I think this is what this all centers on, right?
Well, yeah, we're getting, size is one thing.
So if the
billboard concept, I don't know how you get around that effectively. If people have that in their minds, so that's going to be a concern, I think, again, if you go back to, when you go back to city council, let's say.
But potentially the recommendation from us could be, we recommend approval, assuming that the sign is no lower than X amount of feet, so that it can still accomplish the intended goal. So, I mean, if we put this, if the sign was 10 feet off the ground, why are we having this conversation?
Right.
So if it is 18 feet, is that high enough?
No.
No.
I don't think that
Is 25 feet high enough? So I think maybe you're pointing to something where we can maybe start centering in on something potentially.
But I don't think we're going to get big changes in size in order to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish with the billboard scenario. That's what I was trying to, can we scale it down a little bit to help alleviate some of the concerns about size?
So is it high?
It doesn't alleviate the concept of Trophy Club, is this appropriate for Trophy Club or not, if that's a concern.
So is the concern size of the LED sign, height of the monument, or both?
Well, I don't think it's the size. My impression was it's not the size of the LED sign necessarily. It's the fact that we have an LED sign that's flashing out there. It looks a little, gamish rather than, here's a retail outlet. Although there are other parts, not in South Lake, of course, they've allowed those in South Lake. But I think that's part of the concern I heard on council. The LED thing, I don't think the LED shining too bright at night is a problem. I think that everybody got over that. But I think it's just the fact that why do we need an LED sign flashing at all in Trophy Club? Does that kind of look gaudy or cheap or whatever? That's back to your point.
Yeah, so I think one thing that may be it may be semantics, but I don't see this sign flashing. I think the transition is not a flash. I think it's just a seamless rotation of a visual image. And so if somebody says you're going to have a flashing sign, I think it's important to say it's not flashing. It's a constantly illuminated sign that transitions from one page to the next without that flash, because that was one of my concerns first. If I'm driving at night and I'm seeing something flash over here, it's going to be a little distracting and a little annoying. And so doing some research on the sign, I think it's just a very seamless transition of the images on the screen. So if somebody said flashing, it's like, no, it doesn't flash. And here's what it does. Maybe that helps. I don't know. When you get back to the billboard concept.
It functions the same way as the LEDs that you already have here in Trophy Club.
Hey, we approved this sign once. Trying to convince me.
So
You're going to bring that up.
Hey, we loved the first sign. It was great, but we run into some issues with it.
Chair, maybe I can just kind of real quick summarize, I think, the general questions, and you've been doing a great job this evening, actually, kind of
We're just
talking
trying to get it
through
all out.
these, and I understand it, and I also understand and appreciate the difficult position you're in right now, which is the trying to interpret what's in the council's individuals' heads, right, about things for how it is that they would react to certain recommendations versus others on that part of it. I think as you think about that, right, several of the comments that we heard across the dais were from individual council members, and there was really, I think, just kind of general concern from individual members. I wouldn't describe any of them as being concerns across the majority of the council, right? They were kind of individual comments that were being made for that. So as you think about kind of the sign, and as Mr. Jablonski had mentioned, I think there's an appropriate question here as to when you think about the overall look and feel, and I would say that there actually is a branding theme element to that PD 30 area. It's actually very much contained within the documents of how that area was set up, that the materials were supposed to be of certain, quality, finish, colors, things like that. The signs all look, kind of consistent with things. And so there is an element of a consistent look and feel of that area. I think, so you consider elements like look and feel of that sign. Are they appropriate for this particular area? They also then brought up, so I think that was one of the elements that does the look and feel of this sign match what it is that area is supposed to represent. I think another element had to do with this, with the size of this, right? And what we've heard back from, I think, the applicant at this point is that the sign, although they could lower it a little bit, to lower it more meant sacrificing certain elements of the sign. Okay, so it might be the blades or the size of the LED or things like that. And again, whether acceptable or not, I would question whether or not the 3-foot difference was in their minds what they were thinking when they said to themselves, we want it to be lower on that, for those members who expressed that idea. And again, I'm not saying that there was a majority across the way on any particular way that it was looking. And then there was also just concern about the LED sign in general, to its size and things like that from some of the members for that. So I think as you're deliberating this topic, the trick really is to kind of think about that PD 30 location as an identity, right? As a personality. It has to it a certain look and feel. Does this go along with that? I would agree 100% that the council's main concern here was there's a way to support businesses. They've been asking for this. Let's find a way to accommodate it with a look and feel that is consistent with PD 30 there. And so whether we can find a middle ground that matches that or not, is one of the tricks here of working through this process for it. But that's kind of where I think, if I were debating this right now, I'd be thinking a little bit more about the idea of how does this, as a look or feel, how does it match in with the existing environment that's in PD 30? And does it feel like it belongs there, right? Does it feel like it's appropriate for that location? And does it give off that right feeling of what we want to accomplish there? And then from there, then pass along that best recommendation as a way that we can to them, explaining how that is the case for it and it accomplishes the purpose. And I think with that information, we can provide a lot more clarity to the council as to why this board here wanted to recommend one way or the other about the particular sign. Okay.
Did y'all ever think about, for the applicant, did they ever think about, you're going to have this big sign up here with the Trophy Club up at the top. Right down the street there on the side, there's a nice berm down there. You could put a low monument sign, look really nice, lighted. It says, identifies the center. It's just one thought I had in the original meeting. And then I really had that thought after hearing the council meeting, want to move it up here down from the bottom to the top. I understand trying to identify that because no one knows where it is or knows exactly what it is. That's just a thought too I had, is would that accomplish, that would take the sign down a little bit more. A little bit, but not, again, a little bit. We're trying to get a little bit here.
It's subjective.
Yeah, it's subjective, yeah.
Yeah, I think to Brandon's comment, though, I think it really centers more on the look and feel, maybe not overall dimensionality.
Yeah.
I think the dimensions, the developer is comfortable with with the size of this, and so it really comes down to look and feel, touch points, for everything that's going on right there. And in my mind, I see nothing more than a second clock tower. Personally, I think it fits.
And there's a little clock tower on the top of this, isn't there? It's right there on the left.
It is, yes, sir.
Yep.
And those those also illuminated now.
In terms of, if we were to come up with a recommendation, does it have to be strict in terms of exactly the height that we're recommending? Or can we recommend, for example, could someone make a motion to recommend approval at this height, but no lower than or no higher than? Does that make sense? Can we provide that language as a part of our recommendation?
You can, yeah. We'll need to work a little bit on how we create that in language of ordinance on it, because right now we are very much relying on the images and the design of the sign itself to be what is submitted into the ordinance.
Right.
What you're talking about is a more general way of describing a sign, no higher than this, no lower than this.
Well, and I think that recommendation though, so Brandon, just the reason why I'm jumping in here is if we make that recommendation and send it to council, because of the lack, I think we're all in agreement that there's potentially a little bit of some finite details that we're trying to unpack here, but we just don't have quite all the information. So if we can give kind of a range we recommend essentially within this range. We can accept as approved, but we recommend in this range. And then council can decide if that's acceptable based upon what kind of their opinions are. So at least that could provide us maybe with a pathway forward where we don't have to table it. Perhaps we can kind of see this progress ahead, but we're still accomplishing kind of, I think, the general goal of, if I'm being honest, I think the sign should be taller than 32 feet. I mean, I'm not sure how much a 3 feet reduction really helps here, but I'm concerned that a 8, 9, 10, or 15 feet reduction could actually diminish what the intended purpose is of the sign. So that's where I seem to be centering on right now. I could be convinced otherwise, but I'm leaning towards let's craft a recommendation here, and let's maybe give a little bit of some variance for council to interpret what they see as best, but within the limits of it's still useful at this height, but no lower than this height.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We already gave them a sign that we liked.
I mean, again, to
And
Brandon.
I don't know if we could variance, giving a limit one way or the other is going to help us, but I think, we give them a sign and then they decide if they like it or not. Because basically they wanted it lower, it's lower, 3 feet. They wanted the Trophy Club on top. From the bottom, it's on top.
It's on top.
That's really all the guidance that was given, and so that has been accomplished. So I was at the meeting, that's what I heard.
Yep.
And there were some concerns about LED lights. Okay, well, the only way to get rid of LED lights is move them off the sign altogether. You can have concerns, and I think people can talk you through them as far as what time of night they're burning and how much and stuff like that. So I don't know about giving them variances. I think we give them a sign. So here it is, guys. We like this one too, or also, and we think it, equates to what we heard in the instructions or the recommendations from council, from what we heard.
Yeah, again, to Brandon's point is, remember, we're amending the PD.
Right.
So this will be very specific to, if you recall, like Chipotle, it's very specific to that lot, that address.
Just this one sign.
That sign.
Yeah, we are not, yeah, we cleared that, we cleared that at the first meeting,
Yeah.
and at city council, this is for just this one sign. It doesn't give you the right to put one on the back end back there. So, I don't know.
But I do, I do like the idea of, as far as kind of the way that you would craft a recommendation where you would have a sign within these parameters of height would be appropriate from what this body believes for that part. I think kind of expressing an opinion about the types of materials as well and the look and feel of it, I think would be helpful on that part to help explain the things that are kind of reviewed as being reasons why this would be a sign that is kind of in line with what we're thinking here.
Along those lines, I actually think one of the reasons why I was convinced the last time we made a recommendation for approval on the sign is they had taken into consideration, at least from what I remember, some of the severe weather that comes through the Metroplex and some of those elements that were on the sign. And I think through the reduction, have we lost some of that in terms of the durability to withstand hail and other types of weather? I thought there were some, like, I don't want to call them awnings, but weren't there some blades, or how were they described?
There was a different style of topper on it, but we didn't lose anything.
Okay.
It was strictly decorative.
Okay.
Structurally, it's still,
I mean, you know,
Same
when you get baseball size hail, it
What do you
doesn't
think?
matter. I mean,
Okay.
the stone will come out, but you know.
Well, and I'm thinking more the signs themselves, right? So the stone and the rock, you know, it's pretty firm. Yeah, maybe it's going to get dinged up, but, you know, looking at it from the roadway, you probably wouldn't notice it.
No, there's nothing that we removed that would,
Okay.
that would affect that in any way.
So I do have follow-ups. It's kind of sort of like that. As far as the ongoing maintenance run on that sign, is the developer taking care of all that as it goes through? So to Commissioner Brannon's point, if we have a hailstorm, some of the blades are damaged, nicked. So will the developer be responsible for go out there and replacing them and bringing it back to a more pristine condition and not leaving that eyesore up there that's on that sign? So is that part of the developer's commitment to the town?
It is their responsibility. I can't speak to his commitment to the town, because that would be an insurance claim. When you have damage like that to that kind of point, it's a lot of money.
But then if they did drag their feet, we certainly have people in town that can go by and remind them of their responsibility to bring that current
After
and
spending this
into
amount
much
of
better
money,
condition
I would assume
than
they
what it
want
is
to keep
today.
pristine.
Yeah. Just curious. So also to your point, when you're looking at language, you can band it. You can say 35 is the base, 45 is the top, something like that. And give them a range. But I think you're right. When they said reduce the size, I don't know with specificity how much reduction they were looking for. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, if I were king for a day, I'd say, okay, let's reduce it 6 inches, and we did it. I know that's not what they're looking for. All right, so that I'm being facetious, but I think we should start working on a recommendation at this point, gentlemen. I mean, if we're all kind of in agreement that this is beneficial to the town center, we've already agreed as a body last time to move something forward. I mean, is this where we're at, or are we tabling the item?
no, I don't,
No.
I think we need to do something. How we, you know, construct the motion is, I think, the issue. It's probably gonna need a little work, but I don't want to get too technical on the issue either. Because here's a redone sign, which is what was asked for. Okay, so how do we send that through on a recommendation is where we're at.
Well, last time we just had a motion and we approved the sign.
That's right.
I think that's all we really need.
But I think with Brandon's comment, I think part of what needs to be in there, and Michael's concern as far as banding, that's one. And then the other one is materials that complement the look and feel of the existing structures that are in PD 30.
Well, that's clearly in these plans that are shown.
Well, but I think in your motion that you just incorporate that verbiage, that it maintains that same look and feel.
I sure would not be in favor of allowing it any higher. As I stated earlier, I'm very glad that it's been reduced. And I think this big monstrosity from the backside doesn't do much to enhance anything. So I sure would not favor going any higher. I think we either approve what's been submitted to us or we don't.
Any more discussion? Any better thoughts? Would someone like to try and structure a motion based on our conversations?
Sure. So as it relates to kind of the feel in terms of the materials that were used as proposed, this is all consistent with what PD 30, the stone, the veneer, all those types of things are, right? I mean, so it's a good point to bring up. Was there anything about the sign in terms of kind of the physical presence, not the height, but the way it looked, that caused any concern that somebody wanted to voice as we're crafting a recommendation? No?
Well, yeah, but
But I don't think it had to do with the materials or anything. I think
I'm just
it
making
had,
sure
it had,
that's,
as I recall, it had to do with height,
Yeah.
the size, just
Okay.
general size of the billboard, scenario.
And the fit, the feel, and generally for PD 30.
Yeah.
so I mean,
Yeah.
Well, item 2 on the agenda has a good part of the motion in it. It's what we're asked to do and consider a recommendation. So, and the plans have been submitted. And I think all we need is a motion that says to amend Plan Development District PD 30 to allow a multi-tenant monument sign with CEVMS display located at so-and-so and so-and-so, as depicted in the plans submitted by Legacy Signs, so-and-so.
I agree with that. I would add to that we include a language that it's no lower than a certain height, which,
If I can speak to that real quick.
please do.
So the reduction, the 3-foot reduction, we didn't just go, hey, I think we'll reduce it 3 feet. This is where it landed after removing some of the other architectural features. There were some little pretty things that were here and there on it, without disturbing the overall size of the individual tenant panels and the LED itself. And if I remember correctly, I mean, you won't be able to really tell, I'd have to go back and look, but I think the Trophy Club Town Center on top is actually slightly larger. We were able to take
So
that
this really is, I'm going to interpret that as this is probably the absolute lowest.
without losing something, yes, sir.
Okay. Losing something in terms of effectiveness or
Well, you would, we'd start removing
a
tenant
row of
panels.
tenants, right?
You know,
So it would be a diminishment of
Exactly.
function and
And the purpose
capacity.
of the
Yeah,
purpose.
and the
That is
overall
true.
purpose
Right.
of the sign.
Then we
so
start thinking,
you would have to reduce
Okay.
Trophy Club at the top, or the LED, or start removing tenant panels.
so if we remove, if we basically recommend for approval at this point, I mean, it would be, I think, I would include in the language no lower than 32 feet. Because then we start talking about, as a body, I think, we don't want to see any diminishment of what the potential is to enhance
Right.
the viability of tenants here and what they can do in terms of bringing in revenue.
Well, that's what these plans show, 32 feet.
But we don't want to go any lower. I think that's the thing. So,
Nobody's proposing.
but Mr. Chair was just kind of speaking of, we don't know how low the council essentially was kind of hinting at, right? What maybe they were, what maybe they were, would like to see.
Well, I think it's clear if we say in accordance with these plans, it's 32 feet. It's not any lower than 32 feet is our recommendation.
I think
that's
it's
the
important.
plan.
I think it's important to clarify
I think
that.
that this resubmission of the thing covered most of the majority, if not all of the concerns of the majority of the people on the council. So it's lower, town trophy club's on top, 32 feet is the most efficient they could do with it and still maintain the viability of the tenant panels in order to get the original purpose of the sign to help support the businesses of Trophy Club. So I would tend to agree with Mr. Stevens here that this is what we send them.
So I would make a motion to amend the Plan Development District PD 30 to allow a multi-tenant monument sign with CEVMS display located at 2200, 2300 State Highway 114 on Lot 2, Block A of the Trophy Club Town Center edition of the C. Midland Survey, abstract so-and-so, in accordance with the plans as submitted by Legacy Signs at our public hearing dated today. Is there a date on these signs, the plans?
August 1st.
July 8th, 24 is the date of the plans. On the plans. That's the motion I made.
Any other discussion on the motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second? Okay, call the point. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I make a counter motion? Okay.
That one was a tie. Wasn't it 3-3?
Yes.
So is that all we need to do then?
No.
And that's okay.
No,
I'm just-
no, yeah, no.
Procedurally, I'm just kind of
Yeah,
curious.
so procedurally at this point, kind of what, the question is, a motion has been made, a motion failed. That does not prohibit more motions from
No,
being.
or amendment to that original
Right.
motion.
Or a motion to amend the motion, and
Right.
then you would
Right.
continue there.
Okay. I mean, I just think, I think it'd be, my motion is to basically recommend for approval, essentially as proposed, but include the language no lower than what's in here in terms of the packet of information. So however that needs to be read, I can try to kind of take a swing at that.
You mentioned, I wrote it down a little bit earlier because I just wanted to kind of capture the idea
you.
of what you're saying on it. And I think if you were moving down that road, it would be a motion to approve as presented in the packet here, right? The details with the recommendation that that the overall size of the sign be no longer than 32 feet as presented to enhance the viability of the sign to market tenants. And I just kind of took your words and I wrote them down as you were saying them for it, because I think that would be kind of the expressed reasoning behind the idea as to why it is that you
I agree.
want that.
And I think it's good to kind of present that as a part of the reason being why we wouldn't want it to be any lower is because we don't want it to diminish anything. So, I mean, it's not arbitrary. We sat here, we've talked about it for, guys, over an hour, right? And I think we're in agreement that 32 feet is good, it's good enough, but we don't want it to see any lower because we start losing what the favorable characteristics are. So I'll make a motion to approve as proposed, but I'd like to include the recommendation as well within that the sign be no lower than 32 feet in height in order to diminish what the intended positive impacts are to the businesses in PD 30, something along those lines.
So you're amending the original motion.
I'm amending the original motion.
Okay. Do we have a second to the amendment?
I can second the amendment.
The amendment. Okay, any other discussion? Comments? Call the point. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, consider the approval of the June 6, 2024.
Real quick, Chair, just so that I make sure that we've done this procedurally correctly. So did you phrase that as an amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so then I need you to go back and vote on the motion. So you merely voted to amend the motion. Now I need you to vote on the motion.
Oh, the whole
Okay.
motion.
Correct,
It failed
exactly.
the
So the
first
motion as amended, someone
Okay.
should make a motion to approve
Okay.
as amended.
Yes.
Call the vote on the motion as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, consider approval of the June 6, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting minutes as presented in your package. Anybody have any changes or comments or additions to those minutes? Okay.
I move approval.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Any updates from staff on previous issues?
Not previous so much, but if y'all have noticed across the street, so Beldonia, the townhomes.
Right.
They did request to change their name. They're moving forward. We've got maintenance bonds, all that stuff's wrapped up. And you've seen that they've, done dirt work. They should start. I talked to the developer yesterday and he's hoping to start in the next 2 weeks, just pending contractors on the civils. Poor Sports, we got a CO application in and some construction documents. They're not doing too much inside. They're going to replace Blue 22. And then y'all saw the temporary use permit. So we got Chipotle plans. They've been approved, fire marshal's approved, and the MUD's looked at them and approved. So they should start turning dirt soon as well.
Has there been any discussion around what's coming in Tom Thumb's place?
Just normal talk. Yeah.
Just curious, is it,
Nothing official
Yeah,
that we,
None, because until any decision is finalized,
Right.
right, about that, we just don't know what's happening.
right, I was just curious what the scuttlebutt was.
You're talking about
fun
the merger
speculation.
of Kroger?
The closure of Tom Thumb, yeah,
Oh, well, that was listed as one that they were going to sell to the
right.
company that
If
they're
the merger goes
divesting.
through.
Yes, if it goes through, but I didn't know if there was any scuttlebutt on what may be coming in its place. I didn't know if it'd be like a C&H or some other branded supermarket, or
Yeah,
if the
it's a C
supermarket
and
concept
something.
was just going to go away and
It's
do
a
something
C
else
and
with
something
C&H
grocery.
or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah,
And they've, according to what I read, they notified all employees there that they would be still employed by the new grocer.
good.
Nothing official that we have.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, past items came before this commission. I had a question on how many permits have been requested for artificial turf?
I can get back to you on that.
Has it been more than two?
We've had quite a few that have
More
come
than
through.
two then.
Yeah. Had quite a few.
You kind of put in,
Most of them are backyards.
Yeah.
So you never really see
Which is
them
what I tried to get through
Around-
backyards. Can't see it from the street.
around swimming pools, things like that.
I'm
So
going
we
to
see
make a
them.
permit for purple in my front yard, okay?
Don't, please.
that hurts my heart to even hear that.
That was so funny.
Can we take a vote for a new chair, please?
I'm seconding that.
It may be coming after,
Yeah, I'm seconding that real quick, purple.
it could be coming after the sign just got up.
Please make it maroon.
Well, I didn't lose it over the smokestack, so at least that might be safe for a while longer. How are the smokestacks? Any complaints about the smokestacks?
They're good.
How about all the stuff out back?
Need to adjourn.
It's part of that permit, wasn't it? No. I'll ask you after the meeting. How's that?
Yeah. We've been meeting with them.
I just thought somebody might have brought it up.
Oh, I do have just one question. Have they advanced any discussions on additional parking and how they might accommodate that?
We've had one meeting with them on shared parking. Just
Okay.
they haven't, we don't have any agreements with, we haven't seen any agreements that they got.
They seem to be doing well, which is good.
Very.
Anything else?
No.
No, sir.
Motion to adjourn? We have a motion down there, second? Everybody second, okay.
Everybody.
All in favor?
Aye.
Means adjourned 7:17 PM. Thank you, gentlemen.
Excellent.
The merger